Good afternoon, viewers, and once again, it's the Enterprise Uganda Business Forum, and we are discussing practical business solutions that can help you, make it in business. Last week, we had a very, I should say, riveting story from one of the entrepreneurs from Gulu, Thomas Oloya. I think, Charles, that was quite something. Now, today, we want to tackle a very important aspect in business, and that is capital. Many a time we tend to look at capital as just money, but there is something called intellectual capital. And if you look at some of the big businesses globally, this virtue, this value actually comes out quite strongly in one, answering some of society's critical problems, but then also as a basis for building strong businesses. So today, our topic is going to be on practical business tips on how you can convert your professional qualification, and that now speaks to the intellectual capital we're talking about into a vibrant business enterprise. And this afternoon in the studio, as usual, I have an important distinguished gentleman. I would like him to introduce himself.
Good evening, viewers. I'm Charles Ochichi. I'm the Executive Director of Enterprise Uganda.
Very good. And then in the same spirit, we have an important guest. Grace, I'll beg you to introduce yourself to the viewers.
I'm Dr. Naikas Grace, a pharmacist registered with the Pharmaceutical Society of Uganda.
Very good. Now, before we come to Grace's story, because Grace has a very powerful story, and I would like you to really settle, and you're going to learn a lot from her experience as, first of all, a professional, but then also as a business person. Many a time we tend to think that the two don't, rhyme. But there are many instances and cases, like I mentioned in the preamble, where we see this flying and flying high. Charles, let's go to, today is our 5th session since we began, these sessions really sharing with people. First, we began looking at the COVID-19 pandemic, how businesses can weather the storm. Now we are scaling it up. And I remember one of the viewers last week was telling us that, from what I'm picking, this is beyond just how to weather the COVID-19 pandemic storm, but then also how to survive in business or to build lasting businesses. So in the same kind of spirit, give us what you've so far picked from the public, from what we've shared.
Thank you so much, Charles. And I want to tell the viewers that these sessions on Sunday afternoon are not just meant to be a story about COVID-19. It's about a story of starting an enterprise at whatever stage you are and making that enterprise create for you as much benefits as possible, but most importantly, transform the community. From the 19 years of Enterprise Uganda's building entrepreneurs, we are now able to showcase some of the stories that I feel teach people many things. We have since seen that there is specific challenge in crossing an enterprise from the founder to the next generation, another family succession. And viewers know that many businesses have not crossed that line. We have also since seen that you can get a lot of money in your core business, but how to continue that growth journey and then diversify as you wish is not as easy as people imagine. We have also since seen that young people can go into business and succeed, starting with nothing. And as I will later be going to the lessons from Oloya, you can see that wherever you are located, opportunity to succeed is big. And I wanted to tell the viewers that save Sunday afternoon for a very important opportunity to learn things you don't get from a textbook. And we will endeavor to make sure that from the more than 120,000 clients of Enterprise Uganda, we'll keep bringing them here. Each story is different. Each story has got something you learn from. And that is what we want this country to appreciate and know. And also we're beginning to see that indeed Ugandans are interested in this subject. The amount of phone calls, the amount of inquiries, the amount of people saying, when is the next training? When do we get the next sessions? It's just amazing.
I hear you.
And that's a very fulfilling thing when you are heading an institution like Enterprise Uganda.
Tell us something, Charles. From your experience, you talked about over 20 years of Enterprise Uganda, skilling and training people. How relevant are these trainings, to the business person or operator? Because many a time we tend to hear words like business acumen. There are those who think that actually businessmen are born, they are not made, and that kind of thing. Just break down for us the importance of training and hand-holding in business.
Let me put it to the viewers that there are about 5 stages of enterprise growth. We are from zero to becoming a micro-entrepreneur. There is a mindset you must wear at that point. And there are things that you've been made to believe that you cannot start. So at that stage, there are business development services you must acquire to have the courage to move from a zero entrepreneur to now somebody who is running an enterprise. As they will be later seeing, the story of a lawyer illustrates some of those things I will be sharing. But the moment you become a micro-entrepreneur is not what you are born to be. You should move from there, from micro to small. But also don't remain small. Again, at the stage of small, you begin to have a bit of more income than somebody who has nothing at all. And if we do not assist you to formalize at that stage and begin to do things that sustain you, that stage is where you are either stagnating or you completely collapse again from there. Now, from small to medium, the game begins to become tighter. To cross that line and really become a medium-sized enterprise, you had the story of Yugachik, you had the story of Nina Interiors. Those are people who are having issues way beyond the ordinary challenges of a micro-entrepreneur. You see them as if they are succeeding. We have what we call the missing middle in enterprise development. In other words, people will start on large numbers from from nothing to micro. Then from micro to small, a few more will cross that line. To move from small to medium size, very few businesses get in there. And that's what we call the vacuum point. You enter there, it's a danger zone. You do so well. You enter that point, it's a danger zone. And many times it's how to handle success. Because now bankers know you. Because
actually I was going to ask, why is it hard to actually make that leap?
That is the point when everybody loves you and is talking about you. And it's now that success that makes you forget the 2 fundamentals of private sector. And those 2 are, a customer is buying a functional solution. If we have been singing about your success and you forget that I'm coming to buy something functional and you keep on telling me about your history, I will leave you and go to somebody else. Yet at that stage, so many people are watching you and copying you, and they want to do as well as you are doing, and they are trying to remove your own employees, and they will cause you a lot of challenges. So that aspect of forgetting that fundamental entry point for private sector, we do not buy history. We do not buy your big name in the country. We continue buying what we feel is working for me today as I buy. Number 2, you also forget at that stage that the competition has been awakened. Many people have been inspired by your story, and now many want to get in there. And as they try to get in there, they find you sleepy.
They even do it better.
They do it better. You're complacent. So these 2 things are easy to forget when prominence comes in.
I hear you.
So we tell people that Africans have failed to cross the line of small to medium and medium to become a global brand, because of forgetting these 2 fundamentals of what it takes to enter the private sector.
Very good. Let's go to the key learnings from a lawyer before I bring in Grace here.
The story of a lawyer has interesting aspects that any Ugandan, no matter your age, would love to know. And indeed, we received calls from all categories of Ugandans, retiring people, young people, educated, non-educated, professionals in fish farming and non-professionals. Everybody was just delighted about the lawyer story. A lawyer was a young man who, out of very bad circumstances, lost his both parents. And in the course of that deprivation, he couldn't go beyond senior 6. And the senior 6 we are talking about here is a rudimentary senior 6 in a low quality school. That's the lawyer we are talking about. But what did the story bring out? Number 1, startup capital, in other words, resources to start a business, are not a limiting factor. Never, no matter who you are. Even for a lawyer with no parents, even for a lawyer with nobody to give him resources, startup capital or resources to do business is not a limiting factor. For a lawyer, the land, the stream water, clay, potato leaves, malwa waste were always there. But what was missing? A mindset of a lawyer saying, how do I convert these raw materials into a solution called a fish pond? Number 2 lesson. Mindset is understood, but not clearly appreciated. Mindset is created when you begin to take new actions in a new direction consistently. When a lawyer left training, for 3 weeks he disappeared from his friends who were giving him a wrong mindset. He went to dig the pond, 10 by 15 meters alone for 3 weeks. At that point, you begin to know that this mindset thing is beginning to manifest. Number 3, we also saw that always begin a business within your means. Many people will want a fish pond of some 50 by 50 meters. A lawyer went and started one he could dig.
You bite what you can chew.
Exactly. No need to say, now where do I get a tractor to dig this place? Now where do I get people to help me? He said, I will use my resources. And what were the resources he had? He said, Naje. And he started with a 10 by 15 meters. Now, today he has one of the ponds alone is 95 meters by 65 meters. The total stock of the fish is between 120,000 and 150,000 fish in the pond. But the beginning within his means. So we tend to delay and postpone starting because you want to start in a certain grand manner, you know. The other lesson that also we got to appreciate from a lawyer's story is that do not expect things to be smooth. The takeoff for a lawyer was so rugged. After digging the pond for 3 weeks, he did that, the water came, he had no capital to buy fingerlings. Now the water is in, he can't have fish in the water. Then again he said, Enterprise Uganda said, never give up. What else can you do? He quickly saw the amount of clay around the dug-up place and said, what if I converted this clay into bricks? He did exactly that. And he got working capital to put fish in the water. So ruggedness is the story here. If you are to read a business plan of a lawyer, most likely would just say, I've dug up this thing, now I'm looking for capital to get the fingerlings. Reading neat and beautiful. Very neat. You can't get that one put in a business plan. The other aspect of a lawyer's story is that no matter where you come from, no matter your level of education, you must acquire key success factors for the industry or a sector you are going in. A lawyer had never been to any fisheries class, but he mastered on how to get this to happen by visiting another fishery, a fish pond owner. And when you listen to him speak when he was here, you could see how the man would talk about digging the pond, selecting fingerlings, feeding the fish, marketing the fish. He spoke the language as if he was a lecturer of the subject.
Because he's living it.
He's living it. So key success factors can be acquired, and you just need to be interested in getting those to be acquired. The other thing we learned was that a lawyer was personally involved and daily monitoring all his businesses. He was in the fish ponds, waking up at 4 a.m. He would go and check on the trees. He would go and check on the chicken. He would go and check on the 100 acres with soya. Every day, waking up at 4 a.m. Before that, he was an ordinary person doing mueso and playing at the roadside. The other thing we learned from a lawyer's story is that seek to transform the community so that you begin to belong to them and they begin to support you. So lawyer has used his fish ponds for schools to visit and learn about fish farming. He has given jobs to his own people. Then the other point that came out was that success that stands out is visible from afar and it will always be recognized and it will be supported.
I remember his story.
A lawyer, you the story of going to Geneva.
Of going to Geneva, yes. And the days he spent in Entebbe.
Correct. He had never boarded a plane. He had never gone to a European world. The fellow was, when we shared the story, UNCTAD simply said, please give us a lawyer urgently. And they were on phone coordinating his visa, saying, we want a lawyer. When he arrived late in Geneva, they were right at the airport saying, we need this man at the conference. And when he reached there, it was their outstanding story. How do you ignore a story of a young man who started with virtually nothing and was now speaking in terms of Uganda money, almost a billion shillings every 8 months?
Yeah.
You can't ignore that anywhere in the world.
That's quite powerful.
So success, if you can shine amongst your peers, amongst your colleagues, and really come out standing, you will be rewarded and recognized.
I hear you.
Humility was the other thing that we saw. This fellow was still using public transport to come all the way from Gulu to Kampala and back. But the resources he's acquiring massive, and he's not ashamed to even mention that. Competition. The young man now knew that the story of his success is not a story amongst youth. It's a story of competing for space for anybody involved in fish farming. Many of them are well-resourced, some of them well-connected, but he said, just keep on improving whatever you are doing every day, because even the competition is being run by normal human beings. Compete with them. He also mentioned something about giving grants to young people, and he said, grant is best used when channeled to someone already doing something. Idle youth, and I thought this was extremely useful from a young person. He said, idle youth have lifestyle habits, and he cited drinking, betting. And those habits, he said, they can destroy any financial support the youth get if their mindsets and if their habits are not fixed. Finally, when he was asked about getting capital or loans, he said, it's okay for young businesses to be given capital, but it should not be for idle hands. Please get somebody already doing something, give him a loan, because he has already mastered on how to get a customer and fulfill a customer need. His headache now is how to improve things, and those resources should be available, cheaper, and easily accessible, but should be for people who are already running, as opposed to just saying, oh, you're idle, why don't we give you money?
I hear you.
Those were the key learnings that came out of that.
No. Very powerful messages in there. And I'm sure viewers really, those who missed that discussion or missed some of the points, today you've got them quite precisely. And because the objective of this discussion is actually to help you as a business person, access some of these or understand and grasp some of these key values for doing business. And it's one of the reasons why you're seeing we're taking time to even revisit what we've learned in the previous sessions. Like we advised, I think 2 weeks ago, it's always good to have, watch this show with a pen and paper somewhere, because you can pick a thing or two. Yeah. Grace, I'm sure my viewers want to hear from you. Who is Grace, and what do you do?
Grace is a young pharmacist who graduated 4 years ago, and now I'm owning a pharmacy called Jinko Pharmacy. It's located in Kulambira. Secondly, I have a medical center. As I talk, it's 5 months old. Okay. Yeah, that's Nika's Grace. Okay,
give us an idea. How is business? What is your experience so far?
Business is the right thing to do. It's the way to go. Business. When you do business with the right mind and right information, you never regret.
I hear you.
Up to today, I say it's one of the biggest choices of my life I've made.
Most scientists tend to be comfortable where they are, because we have this feeling that scientists are so much sought after, and we rarely see them making the leap going into business. They tend to be comfortable, working somewhere else. How did you, get into that business mind and say, I'll take this direction?
Actually, there are some people I have to thank. The mayor of Nakawa, because I saw the advert of Enterprise Uganda. It was in a WhatsApp group where the Mayor Ronald Balmwenzo was advising all youths in Kawa division to go and attend an Enterprise Uganda session, whereby I think they benched, the government contributed something, so we're just paying like 5,000. And trust me, 5,000 I paid. I always value it because it transformed me to who I am today.
Talking about transformation, paint for us a picture before I come into the real values that you picked from that training. How big is your operation? How many people do you employ? I'm sure our viewers would like to really feel that.
I think now I have 12 employees. I have a cleaner, have a cashier, have 2 nurses. Myself, I'm part of the employee. Then with the medical center, I have 4. A clinic officer, a midwife, 2 nurses, a cleaner, a cashier.
How long have you been in business?
Just 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would you say that you reached that point where you feel the business has settled? I know, of course, there are aspirations to achieve, but where you feel you're not like riding a wild horse?
No. I think where I am, I'm fair because the pharmacy has already given birth to a drug shop, a medical center. Actually, I have 2 clinics and a drug shop. I've paid the school fees for my young sister at campus, and I feel proud of it. It's the business that has enabled me to do that. So I feel, although it's still hard and I'm still aiming higher, I'm at least somewhere.
I was going to ask about your age, but then I realized I have to be a gentleman.
Yeah, that's true.
But let's go to the values of the training you got from Enterprise Uganda. What values did you pick there that have really helped you, get to where you are today?
Actually, I thought for someone to start a pharmacy, you needed a lot of money, like 20 millions and above, 25. So according to me, I was like, maybe I'll open a pharmacy, maybe after 10 years from now, after accumulating the capital. Here comes me in a conference, they are telling us, start with what you have. What do I have? I'm already a pharmacist. Start with the little you have. But the little I have was too little. But it is the knowledge I got that made me to know that what I have is not actually little. Actually, whenever my friends come to ask me how I started, where did I get the money, I always tell them I had only 2 millions. I had 2.5 millions with me. But the knowledge I had was too big to compare with me that the capital will find me on that way. Because when we attended, Mr. Ochichi always told us that capital will never announce itself that we are here. But when you start, there is a way capital falls up.
So you're part of the capital, the knowledge and all that. The
knowledge is, but actually the skill I acquired from Enterprise Uganda was capital.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Charles,
yes.
What are the key learnings we're picking from this, very quickly for our viewers?
There are many things that you could see that this country can pick up from this short submission from the young lady Grace. And one of those that I can see here is that a local leader, a mayor of Nakawa, takes effort to say, I'm going to advertise the thing, I believe in it. And getting a respected name like that to associate with this kind of a thing, that otherwise people will say that, what is that? It was such a beautiful thing. So I think one of the key learnings here is that the leaders need to appreciate that our young people are innocent, trying to get a bearing, and they look up to us. If you point them in a wrong direction, they go that direction. If you point them in the right direction, they go that direction. Balumweso said, you people go. This training is good. But also because Balumweso himself appreciates business and he actually practices business. And when the training was going on, he was all the time popping in there to check and see whoever leaves this place, I will cane you. That is a very key thing that I saw in here. But also you could see from the young lady's story that do not get modest success and begin to celebrate it. Because having started just the first outlet, she could have just said, this okay now. I've sorted out these things.
I'm told it's called early arrivalism. You
Correct.
feel like you've arrived already.
Yes. She would have just said, really, with this? And I'm sure in where she was before she came into business, she might have to as well give us a bit of a background, what she was doing before getting into business. Because what she now started was better than what she had been having before. Many business people have settled early after getting modest success. The lady has continued, making sure that the resources that are coming in are measured, are handled in a measured way to continue consolidating what she's doing. And you can also see the way she's recruiting people. She's recruiting people with the clear designation of duties. Not just saying, I have workers, a cashier, a cleaner, a clinical officer, a midwife. Beginning to appreciate what you call a structured outlook to running an enterprise at her age.
I hear you. Very, very important points. I like the fact that you're diversifying, or you actually within the same line of trade.
Yeah.
Because we've seen cases where entrepreneurs diversify into other sectors where they don't even have a clue. Probably they should be owning a banana plantation somewhere, going into eucalyptus planting and that kind of thing. But Grace, I understand, you know, when we hear these stories, someone might think it's a bed of roses. So I know you had to deal with certain realities to actually make it where you are today. Share with us some of the realities you had to put up with at the beginning to actually build what you have today.
Actually, when I was looking for the location, I used to foot. Most of the times I would foot. I would get a taxi. It takes maybe to Mukono, but I have to go deep in Mukono to look for the location on foot. I would move up to Sonde, that side. Like when you feel tired, you get a border. You move around. Up to when I got that convenient place. Actually, as I was looking for a location, I would listen to Mr. Chichi's voice, whereby look for a location that you can afford so that you don't use all the capital on rent. So I found a house which was 300,000. Remember, before I was sleeping in a house of 350,000 shillings. So this was already capital being put to use. So as I got the place, now the place was small. So I had to pay even behind with them in mind that I will break the wall and make the thing bigger for farmers. Being a pharmacist, at least I knew the recommendable size for farmers. Now the problem comes, the landlord refused for me to break, but I had paid for 3 months. He was like, if you are serious, you want to break, you have to pay me 900,000 shillings. Remember, I'm already limited in capital. I tried to beg with the man, he refused, so I had to pay him that money. After paying that money, I'm the one who was supposed to break the wall and furnish it the way it's supposed to be. I had to call in the village. I had a cousin brother who came and helped me to break. I was involved in a process. I would lift those debris and throw them there where we are throwing them. I knock them myself. It was challenging, and people would wonder what is wrong. But at the beginning, it wasn't a bed of roses. Because actually, after paying for rent, I had to look for the guy who was going to do the partitioning. The guy who was going to do the partitioning asked, I think, for 5 million. I didn't have the 5 million, though I was remaining with 1 million. That remained on the 2.5. I gave him that, then I promised him every month I'll be paying him, let him start. Because I was having another pharmacy where I was working. So any money I get from my place of work, I put on my... After partitioning, the 5 million had gotten finished. The guy says, no, that's very little money. I can't make for you the counters unless you add me 3 million. Now that was almost impossible. I tried to look around there was a carpenter nearby. I went, I told him I want something like this. He told me, I know everything, I've understood, I will do it. He tells me how much will you give me? How much would you accept? I'm the one asking. He was like, me, I can do that at only 2 million. Kumbe, he knew nothing about what I wanted. So every day I come sit to supervise, you see that he does something which is just dancing. There is no way medicine could stand in it. I call with this guy. He was like, the problem, you sit there and see. You be aware, we'll call you when the work is done.
Let us concentrate. Yes.
Allow us to concentrate. So almost a month ended that the guy is doing nothing. So one time I had given him 800,000. He stopped even coming.
Oh my God.
I went, but when we were attending, Mr. Chich told us, whatever you do, make an agreement. So we had written, I agree with and so to make me a counter within 2 weeks. So I had to carry that agreement to police. But our police, they would even chase him when I'm seeing. They reach somewhere because they would tell me, come and go and show him to us. I showed them he's there. They try to show us if they are chasing him. Then they come back with his shoes. They say, we even had removed his shoes.
He survived now.
But he ran, no. Yet maybe they were, while he was giving them something and he scams, even he would pass on the road and say, that woman is stupid. She won't do anything. But I had a friend who was an OC in Nagalama. He ordered some friends of his, they came and caught him. When they caught him, they put him in, KCCA court. I went there once. I felt bad because the guy was in Ruzira. He had spent there a week. I felt pity. But after that, they were like, he's going to give you your... I told them, I don't need any money. I just need my money. I go and get someone else. They were like, he will give you your money. Next time when you come back, I went. Next time I come back, they told me, you people, I thought you talked and settled the matter. The guy was released long time ago. I said, let me give up on that. I concentrate. I got money. Actually, this time I was like, I'm not employing somebody nearby. So my 800 went like that.
And the time lost.
Time lost. So I employed, I called someone who directed me. Some guys were from Lila. I employed them. Actually, the job took 2.5 for the counters. They slept there. They did it in 2 days, and they finished. Now, I finished to put everything. I don't have any money to start. Even the license is still at NDA. So I would go at NDA every day. NDA was like, we are no longer giving licenses for Kampala. So wait for more 2 months. But remember, my rent is going. Remember, wait for 2 months, we'll give you a decision. But there is a guy at NDA, he's also a pharmacist, he's Dr. Nahamia. He really helped me. He was like, don't mind, they will allow you, keep on, don't give up. Yeah, I would go there almost every Tuesday. I would go there and sit. Actually, in the process, some people were like, since they have seen the premises and it is okay, and you're a pharmacy, you know the measurements, you start. And I was like, what if I start? And they come and lock up my things. So, but though I could start, I could not start because I had no capital. So I tried to move around wholesale pharmacies, asking them whether it's possible to give someone who is just starting capital. Okay, creditors in drugs. They were like, we can't do that. We can't, you first have to buy from us at least 5 months. Then we see your cash flow before we give you capital. Hey, I was stuck. I told friends, relatives, I want money. I've already put everything is in order. When you reach there, you would see it's a pharmacy, but no medicine. Actually, even I didn't have money to pay for the license. I was like, if it's possible, they lend me the license. I work a bit.
That takes courage. Eh?
I work a bit, then I pay the license back. So I had reached a point of failing, But there were, I used to tell my friends who are pharmacists, if you have like 2 million or 4 million, please give me. When I start like this, I'll pay you.
Arambe.
But thank God there was a lady, she's also a pharmacist, she's called Babiria Jane. She told me after seeing the place of the farmers, was like, I have some 4 millions I can give you, but you give it to me in April.
Hold it there, Grace. Charles, this is a very important experience, and I'm sure a number of our viewers can relate to some of these realities, because these are issues that the business community contends with on a daily.
Yeah.
What are the key learnings there before I bring Grace back to complete her story?
What the listeners need to appreciate is this. When it comes to private sector, challenges have got no room for somebody who is a beginner. Whether you're a beginner, whether you are seasoned, whether you are known in the whole country, challenges will come knocking. Those kind of things she went through are the things you'd have wished the world not to throw on her. It was already hard enough for her to take off resources. More difficult for her to be monitoring a carpenter. She has never known how to monitor a carpenter. Monitoring people who are seasoned thieves. And the thief simply looks at this girl and says, this young one here, I will take her money. There's nothing she can do to me. She goes ahead and gets a landlord who initially says, you know what, take up this place. This is all yours. You begin to say, now what if I did this and I continue being your tenant? He gives you conditions. Those conditions should not have been for a beginner. But the message is clear. Now we know why it takes a lot of effort to build an entrepreneur. The challenges, the hurdles ahead are numerous. Even if this young lady had money, did you know that just the headaches of dealing with the carpenters, people trying to complete the setup here, were more than enough to make us say, please, if this is the case, I'm putting more applications and continue looking for a job. It is tough to create a resilient, committed, enterprising mind.
Grace, so how are you negotiating that corner to actually make this work?
This work I told, no, now we are at a level of, I've gotten 4 million from a friend. She promised. Now one time I was at National Drug Office and I see some Indians talking about wholesale pharmacy, what. Okay, all this, like even getting that courage to go and talk to a stranger, it was part of the training of Enterprise Uganda. Because there is no way you would just go and start talking to strangers you don't know. I saw some Indians were talking about wholesale. And from nowhere, since I know my problem, I came close to them and I was like, good morning. Excuse me, is it possible to give drugs on credit for someone who is just beginning? They told me, are you the one? I was like, yes. I'm a pharmacist and I'm beginning, but I don't have capital. They said, how much money do you have? I was like, I can have 3 to 4 million. They were like, okay. It's the pharmacy is Life Pharma. That one I'll talk about it because it did me good. He was like, you come with those 4 millions, we talk. Now I rushed to my friend. We went with her.
The money was not there.
The money wasn't there, but she had promised me. So we went with her to the bank. She gave me the money. She was my angel. So I took the money to the Indian. He was like, checkbooks? I tell her, I don't have any checkbook. Actually, I didn't even have an account. I was like, now that's the rule. But now, okay, can you bring us your license as a pharmacist? I was like, yes, I have the license. So he added on top of my 4 million, he added 6 million as credit drugs. But he was like, you know what? Don't buy all of them at once. I'm giving you a credit of 6 million, but in that money you can buy whatever you, as things go on. So they made for me a simple stock, and I would add
stock incrementally.
Yes. So now there I started paying every money I get, I take all of it to the Mindi. He gives me more stock every month.
That takes discipline. Eh?
After 6, all that we got it from Enterprise Uganda, for example. Even when you, okay, they trained us, even when you fail to pay a debt, don't allow the person who has given you the debt to call you first. You call first and explain so that they know you are thinking about them. So any little money I would get, I would take. Now time was almost catching up with me with a friend who trusted me to pay in April. Because by April I could not pay back the money. I called her, I told her, you know, I was delayed by NDA, but be patient with me, I'll pay you. After like 6 months, I'd already paid half of the Mihindi's money. Now I stop with the Mihindi, I start collecting money from my friend. But remember, I had a job whereby I would work and they pay me 1 million, 1.8 for a month. So this one I would also add in, put some for the debts I was having. Yeah, that's how I managed. By 6 months, I had finished the Mihindi. Now I had to explain to a friend.
Quite powerful there. Now tell us, because I can see you're already now juggling like any businessman, a micro starting operation.
Yeah.
And behind you, you had a family that had probably sold some of their possessions to put you where you are. I'm just, you know, giving that as an example because it happens.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to make here is that these people have a lot of expectations. In this, probably you're the first scientist in, you know, your family, in the clan, and there are always high hopes, you know, and I know parents will always say it with swag when they're mentioning my daughter is a pharmacist, is a doctor, and that kind of thing. How were your parents, your family reacting to all this?
Actually, with Enterprise Uganda, lack of knowledge is something deadly. When I would get my monthly salary, I would say maybe this time I'm giving my dad some money. Maybe this time I'm giving my aunt, my mom. But now time came, all that was cut off. So
you are giving gifts every month?
Yeah, I would plan.
Donate.
Actually, if I had maybe got the information earlier, maybe I would have started earlier. But you know, we have that impression that you have to start big. Yet in the real sense, we have to start small and grow big.
I hear you. I hear you. So now this happens, and the beneficiaries, the other side, are no longer seeing their gifts coming. Yeah. So how are you reconciling that position with, you know, this new reality that you're dealing with?
I know.
And continue to receive their support.
Yes.
Anyway, Charles, it's a very important point. I think Grace, as Grace recollects, because I think...
Correct.
Yeah, what do we pick from this, especially for our young entrepreneurs, the micro operators? Because they tend to find some of these hurdles and just say, I think I've had enough of this.
I think the first thing we need to recognize is that we as relatives, community, leaders, as we push young people into business, let's know that the challenges is not just about the capital only.
It's the skills.
The challenges are numerous, and the issue of capital, even the bit you thought was enough, most likely will not be enough. Now, you need this person to have a sense of self-belief that this is my journey. I'm going to fight it, I'm going to complete it. You could see it from the story of Grace. Grace now knew that these needs are expanding. Initially, I thought it was just these shelves. Now there's this challenge, there's another one, then there's theft, then there are people that are dishonest workers. Now, all these were all over her, and the courage to keep going was key in her. But now when you look at when she went for that visit at the Drug Authority, where the Asians who are doing wholesale were talking, her ears were listening for an opportunity to see how to solve her problems. These people are talking about wholesaling and selling and what have you. She says, by the way, I'm a pharmacist, and I would be happy to see whether I can get some credit from you. Now, that needed you to appreciate the power of information and having the courage to speak it out. That is a business mindset.
And courage is quite strong. Actually, applaud her also on the courage she used to go for that licensed guy and say, can't you give me the thing on credit?
Correct.
Yes.
The other thing that you see again is this, that one, within the societal own community, resources are there.
Yeah.
The 4 million of her friend was in the account.
Yeah.
And the owner said, I have something to do with my money. But then when she visits her place and sees the kind of commitment the friend is having, she says, let me lend you this money. Again, telling you that let's not imagine that as we look at the community, it is a government to Yambe. There's a lot more amount of resource or resources with the community, but the community is a better force sometimes even of enforcing discipline and better use of resources. Because the day she picked a friend's money, the friend was now visiting and associating with her every day. As opposed to when sometimes it's an easy way of saying, you know, some distant uncle from somewhere has given me this money, or even better still, some politician has given me money and he must be doing it because I voted for him. Now, that kind of picking resources from the community and getting the mindset to make sure that you are accountable is something you don't take for granted. Many Ugandans have taken money from friends. They have not done what she did.
Yeah, that's right. That happens a lot.
Many Ugandans have helped friends and they have helped them for decades. They have never been weaned out. This lady borrows from a friend, uses the money well, and tells the friend, let me pay you. And she's saying, I'm indebted to that sister of mine. She's my investment angel. You see the word she used? There was a sense of guilt and commitment on her side, which was saying, if the day get a grant, I should feel guilty. I should feel a sense of accountability. That is a key learning for whoever is listening. That you've been getting grants. How guilty are you about accounting for that resource? And you also who has been giving resources, how committed are you in following up those resources to ensure that the people you have been assisting, last time you assisted them with 500,000, they should never come again for another 100,000.
Absolutely.
Or another 200,000, or another 500,000. If ever they are to come back, it should be to say, we have grown so big. Is there a way you can give us now 10 million? We're big. But the person is still depending on all the kind of handout that you gave them.
Very important points, Charles. Grace, so you were in business, you've started operating, then COVID-19 happens. It's a reality we are contending with today. How has it affected you and how are you managing?
COVID-19, first of all, I told you I have a pharmacy, have a drug shop, and the drug shop is in Bujuko.
Okay.
Have another clinic in Gayaza. I was cut off completely from those ones because I don't have a personal car. Though I would get a sticker, but I had no number plate.
You were a sense of stuff, but I hear you.
Yeah. So most of the visual work was cut off. Then I had to go into an extra expenditure, making sure that my staff at the clinics reside there. No one should go away, because if they go away, coming back is hard. Again, leaving, they have to leave early because they are fearing curfew. Yeah.
Now, with all these realities, just moving on, I know, of course, government has a number of programs to support young people, especially. And I'm sure you have some knowledge, you know, about some of these programs. In your view, what more do you think can be done for these programs to be beneficial to young people like you who have already made the first steps into especially self-employment and business?
Actually, I would start a bit lower. Before giving anyone any money. I think skills, knowledge is fundamental. If I had gotten the money before Enterprise Uganda, actually I had ever gotten more money before, but after Enterprise Uganda I had very little money. But the knowledge that the government had given us through Enterprise Uganda is what made me start. If a person is already with the right knowledge and is already on the way, the government should encourage people who are already doing something. For example, I will speak for the pharmacist. they say that pharmacists don't want to work. Pharmacists, we want to work. But remember, you are working for a business person. Which business person, for them, they want profits. But when you tell them I want allowance of 20,000 every day, that's a loss to them. But now me, I'm a pharmacist, the pharmacy is mine. I got capital in that way. I'm there almost 24/7. If the whole night you'll find me there, the whole day you find me there. In other words, for example, if already somebody is a profession and is given capital in their profession, I think they will use it better for the benefit of the country.
So you left the other job to focus on this business?
I go there twice, and all the time I'm at my
You're
place.
this side. Okay.
Every night from 6 up to 11 in the night, I'm at the pharmacy. Because, okay, we have a right to two. So I supervise mine and another one. Okay. But that has helped me to boost my business.
I hear you. Yeah. I hear you. Charles, what do we pick from these quick learnings there?
She has brought something that I thought we needed to begin to appreciate and begin to talk to specific professions. Because now here is the lady saying that if we picked a pharmacist and empowered a pharmacist to go private, they would do a much better job, faster, cheaper, and more effective than leaving it to an open field that anybody can fill that space. So many times we have ridiculed or even bashed our professionals and said these white-collar fellows are not keen to succeed. In reality, I think you've just seen what she has said. She had gone through scientific training on pharmacology. She had never gotten that aspect of saying, how does somebody translate pharmacology into an enterprise, into a business? When she got that and combined that with her professional line, it was a story to fly and move faster. You can see she had been told that you cannot start a pharmacy unless you have got 20 million. She started very, very small and quickly won the respect of credit suppliers. Once she had her own license, she was the one going to run that thing. And I'm sure now if she was to tell us her own experience with the suppliers, well, how she's going through with that kind of interaction with suppliers who initially doubted her, it must be a different story now.
I hear you. I hear you. And her worth as an individual. Because she's a pharmacist.
Correct.
Then the discipline comes in.
Correct.
I think sometimes we underrate ourselves, especially young people who have gone through school. You have a qualification in one area or another, ICT, and all these other areas and disciplines. I think there's need to really have their minds unlocked, and I think that's where training comes in handy.
It does.
Yeah.
We have also had the people in the agricultural extension services. They're everywhere in the country. Underutilized, demotivated, underpaid, always quarreling and feeling that they did a wrong course. And yet, if there was a way we could get those people to realize that these village homes where chicken are and the chicken are dying, if there was a way we could get these extension officers to begin to appreciate that, treat a few a chicken from a few homes, use that as a testimony, the money would begin to flow.
It will begin coming. And I'll tell you this, Charles, I know for the fact that if you speak to a number of corporates, what we would call the middle class, they are owning a farm or two somewhere.
Yes.
And about 80% are busy making losses.
Very correct.
And one of the most, really the big gap there is lack of skilled people to support, or what you'd call extension support.
Correct.
You know, to support some of these activities. So viewers, I'm sure we're going to pick, you know, key lessons from some of these discussions we're having, especially today. I think this is dedicated directly to you, my brothers and sisters out there. Let me go evangelical here. Who went to school, you have that qualification in a certain area. It could be you could be a scientist or an artist. There are ways you can monetize that and make it in business. But we'll pick the discussion from there after this very short commercial break. Welcome back. We are still looking at key values, key values that you need to operate a business. Of course, today's discussion is looking at how you can monetize, you know, the professional skills that you have, or how you can turn those professional skills into a business enterprise. And we are picking that through a case study or the experience of Grace. Grace, before we went for the break, there's where you mentioned that before the training at Enterprise Uganda, you really had money. And but something changed after that training happened. But I'm specifically interested in knowing, because I mean, here I'm seeing a young lady, pharmacist, you've started working, you have a fair job, because anywhere above 1 million a month, you know, is not bad for someone starting, you know, to work. How did you manage to reconcile or to really keep or tie the desires of the flesh? I said I want to go a bit evangelical, it's a Sunday, on a pole somewhere and continue, you know, with that focus of saying, I'll have this business work, I'll have my dream come true. How did you do that?
Actually, before Enterprise Uganda, I was having plans, in quotes, the 2.5 millions. I was planning to buy a giant screen and sofas, so that when my friends come to visit me, they see really this is a house of a pharmacist. Even before Enterprise Uganda, it doesn't say that I've never had much money, but I had money which I didn't know how to use it. So I ended up wasting it. Someone who, after asking, I have 5 million, what can I use it for? When you ask like that, you end up attracting people who takes them, and actually the 5 million was gone. Actually, by the time Enterprise Uganda phoned me, they had just taken that money and I've never gotten it back, just because I didn't know what to do with the money. Okay. But when Enterprise Uganda told me that some of us, we have resources, we have sleeping capital, but we don't, you know, if some of you have a giant screen and you are single, what do you use that giant screens for? Like now, me, I was planning to buy a giant screen, but that money is what I converted into my initial capital. And after like 1 year, I bought the giant screen I wanted. I bought the big chairs I wanted.
Because you had sorted the means for that. Well, how are your peers looking at you today?
Actually, I've inspired many. Most of them want to join me where I am. Actually, they always come to ask me. Some think maybe I had some huge money before starting. And I've always told them, the most important thing is to start. Don't wait for big money. It will never assemble anywhere. And like Mr. Ochichi used to tell us, capital will never tell you that I'm here, capital. If you start something, many people will be willing to help you. Very
good. Viewers would like to have you participate in this discussion. So in about 10 minutes or so, I'll be, you know, releasing the calls, and you can give us your comments, your suggestions and questions. But that will be, you know, after a few submissions with my panelists in the studio today. Charles, what do we pick from Grace's, you know, submission on peers and dealing with the desires of the flesh?
I think one of the things that we pick here is that this country have people who are earning decent salaries. They have mishandled those resources. And they have done it innocently. They are saying, I am an engineer, I must look like one. I am a doctor, I must look like one. Which size of a screen do I need so that when I'm looking at the images, they should be the size of images associated with the pharmacist.
Should actually be watching.
A pharmacist should not be looking at a screen of some 12 inches. And yet the image is clearly seen. So you can see how resources are abundant in this country. But the idea of saying, when do you reward yourself? Do you see now what she's saying? She waited a full year for the business to pick up, and now she has gotten the very rewards she wanted. But she's getting those rewards with sustainability. The business is continuing, it has grown, it has given birth to a drug shop, 2 clinics, and a very strong pharmacy. Now she says, it's time to reward myself.
And she can afford those rewards.
She can afford those ones. So we have a case of people who get salaries and misuse the salaries, and they are using it for the sake of impressing others, not to try and build a foundation for themselves. Now, the people you try to impress, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you never see them again. But they will be able to, at a distance, say, that person who is begging now for school fees, he used to be so and so. He has now lost, he mishandled his money. They judge you.
Yeah.
And you are in a situation where you are saying, they are right, but I made a mistake, and you can't reverse much.
Very powerful. So, Grace, I understand you've supported your family, your mom specifically. Tell us that. I mean, what have you done, and how have you been able to balance, the capital here and your business operations running, and then giving that support?
Actually, the moment I started like earning something, already I had my sister who had sat for 2 years. She was waiting for university, but also she was cooperative because she would do as the cleaner. In the morning she cleans the pharmacy, then cooks food. Now she goes to campus every evening. So she was like my first employee. Because at first I would do everything. I'm the pharmacist, I'm the dispenser, I'm the what. Now she graduated last year, the bachelor's degree in education, cut us off the pharmacy business as young as it is. Then also my parents' house. I'm very happy and proud that I put a good roof over my daddy's head, because it wasn't good, but now it looks good and it makes me proud.
I hear you. Dear viewers, you can be part of the conversation. This is a story of Grace Naikazi. She's a pharmacist, and she's now a business owner in that same line. And I think she has diversified into the clinics as well, which is quite commendable. Yeah, so when you go through, please just be as brief as you can with your name and question. Hello, caller. Hello.
Hello.
Please give us your name and question. You're live on NTV.
I'm called Gloria Tinubo.
Yes, Gloria.
I'm a person who got married to a very big person.
Okay.
People think I have money right now because he gives me some little money I'm using. People think I'm having a lot of money, and I find myself spending a lot of money instead of the money. I have a business.
Yes, please.
I have a business that is helping me, but it's a beautician business, which works. I have a problem with English. Can I use Uganda?
Go ahead.
Katinina business ya boutique, ekola season. Yet I have a lot of expenses I have to then take more kulabanga atenga ne business tempa bulungi. Kati nsaze magezi chokulabanga nyongera ku capital. Nga nino kutendeza expenditures enkozesa bontegezi.
Nkutegedde bulungi. Thank you, Gloria. Point taken. Yeah, so she has a business, but again, she's married this big person, and I think there are so many people that want to be rewarded, reconciling the business and then the interest there. Caller, please give us your name and question.
But before you, complete her request now is that she needs to get more money to improve the other enterprise.
Absolutely.
And how can she
reduce the expenses?
Reduce the expenses.
I'll pick, I think, about 4 callers, and then we'll respond to them. Hello, please give us your name and question. Oh, we've lost that one, sorry. I'll pick another one. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please. What is your question, sir, and name?
Yeah, I'm called Henry from Arua.
Okay.
And my question goes to Grace. I'm a graduate of accounting.
Yes, please.
And I would like to know, I would like to know from Grace, like as an accountant, I have fallen in love with the pharmacy business, and I think that would be a good business for me. So I need to understand what will it require for me to venture into a pharmacy business.
Okay. Thank you, Henry. We'll pick another caller. Hello? Hello, you're live on NTV. Your name and question, please.
My name is Mariam Cruz. I'm calling from Porto.
Yes, Mariam.
Kudos to Grace. These are the kind of ladies, young ladies we need. And my request to Mr. Buchichi, why doesn't Enterprise Uganda open branches in up-country towns? Because since everything is concentrated in Kampala, we have so many young people who would use the services of Enterprise Uganda, but because Enterprise Uganda is in Kampala, they can't travel to Kampala to get education, which like a great got, and now she has become someone to inspire other young people.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mariam. Yeah, I'll pick one more call before we come back to the panelists. Hello. Okay. Hello. Please give us your name and question. Hello.
Hello.
My name is Enoka.
Yes, Anuka. What is your question or comment? Sorry, Anuka. We're getting feedback from your TV set. Charles, or maybe let me pick the last one and then we come back at once. Yeah. Hello. Your name and question, please.
Hello.
Hello. You're live on NTV. Please give us your name and question.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think we're having a challenge there on the lines. Charles, I think I'll begin with you. We had the First Lady, Gloria, I think.
Yeah.
She was wondering how she can mobilize capital.
Yeah.
But then there's also that aspect.
Yeah.
She married a
Spending.
big person,
Yes.
and then there are all these expectations she has to manage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think my advice to Gloria is, number one, recognize that the business you are running is receiving customers who are coming for solutions from you, and they are not bothered about whom you are married to. Now, all that these customers are looking for, give us a working solution. It's now up to you to now say, how do I hire people who come and deliver solutions to look after the expectations of the customer? If some of these relatives or friends of yours are coming to work there just because they think your husband has got a lot of money to pay salaries, those salaries are supposed to be borne or covered by a customer. A customer will never pay for your inefficiencies or your generosity. They are simply saying, want a working solution. Number two, the customers you are also having have got options to go and get the same services or solutions elsewhere. So just recognize that you have no privilege of monopoly for a customer. In other words, whatever you do, manage the expenses, manage the delivery process to ensure that you serve a customer who comes back. And that requires you to have a complete business mindset. Be grateful for the marriage that has given you some resources. Take advantage of that to use it as a platform to build your credentials as a solid, independent enterprise that is not leaning on the husband. Because I also want to add this, the resources today you may be getting from a partner are not guaranteed tomorrow. Because today the partner is getting those resources because he's giving certain solutions. Those solutions he may continue to give them, but for a while. After a while, those solutions could easily end. We have seen people who were ministers, they are no longer ministers. People who were army generals, they are not army generals. People were having positions of CEO, they have left the position. Now, then what? This business here must continue to fight its own course and continue to serve the customers irrespective on how you started. So begin to outlive the effect of having soft resources coming from a partner, and just be grateful that that kind of a route took you into the game.
I hear you. Mariam from Fort Portray is wondering why can Enterprise Uganda have branches, to take the services up country?
We've always battled with the expansion question, and people have said, Enterprise Uganda, we love you so much. How can we keep getting you at our place every month? There are issues. One is the limitation of the logistics. Number two, we also have the limitation of the HR that we can deploy. But what we've done now is to begin to have mobile training tents. After the COVID, we want to locate Mariam, and Mariam should try and locate Enterprise Uganda. And we first come to Fort Portal and just do the thing on behalf of Mariam, who called on behalf of our people. And we go to Fort Portal.
Yes.
Now, in Kampala here, government is doing something great for this year. Government is saying, Enterprise Uganda, let's start with a big facility in Kampala where we can get you take at least 1,000 people through the training of Grace's type every month. Because many people are coming to Kampala, but when they arrive here, they have got issues on how to survive. Once we sort out Kampala, we will continue now to gradually go regional, starting with the cities like Fort Portal. Of course, we could easily have a branch in every city. So we are going to get there. In the meantime, we use the resources the way we currently have them.
But
yeah,
Grace, Henry is an accountant, and he wants to go into the pharmacy business. What should he have in mind? What does it take?
He just needs a pharmacist.
Okay.
And the pharmacist will tell him what to do. Because actually, the process, you start by opening a company. You cannot run a pharmacy without a company. After getting a company, you find a location. But if you don't know how to look for a location, meaning you can start at that level with a pharmacist who can do it for you. After you've gotten a location, you need a pharmacist, because to do with NDA, it's the pharmacist who does that part.
I hear you.
Many people have pharmacies and they are accountants, any other profession, but they have the money and the love for the pharmacy business. Yeah.
Competition is a key issue in business, and the area where you see it has quite some fair competition, so to speak. I'm sure in the area where you're operating, or the areas, you're not the only pharmacist. And sometimes this competition can get bloody, if you know what I mean. Some people use underhand methods to really edge you out of business. Sometimes they really go bare knuckle. How have you managed this? How do you deal with your competition?
That's why we say that knowledge is key. Actually, they told us, of course, when I say they, I mean Enterprise Uganda, told us that there is no business without competition. When you cut out a business and there is no haters, there is no those who talk ill about you, it means it won't work out.
It's not a good business.
But when you see those ones, those are showing you that you are heading there. Because I remember there was a lady who had a small clinic nearby, and I didn't even know the lady. She started telling, those young girls, they don't know anything. Actually, she called me yesterday to give a cannula. And I was like, I don't, in a pharmacy, do I need even a cannula? Somebody made an audio of her talking and brought him. I told her, I don't even know this woman, but this I expect them, and it's okay. Yeah. Competition. Only one of the key things I remember, they were like, try to identify your competitors. And what services are they giving that makes them your competitors. And if you put some of them in your place, you survive.
Charles.
Yeah.
Many businesses tend to look at competition differently.
Yeah.
I think it was in one of the sessions where I think someone, and I think Grace is now also alluding to it, the issue of quality of the kind of service and product you're offering. But what are the key learnings there from Grace?
One of them is, again, that when it comes to competition, there is no grading. That, oh, now, since this is a beginner, let's allow her to compete with the beginners. No. You will get any type of a person coming to compete with you. And then there are issues to do with the slander.
Full menu.
Correct. People trying to paint you the way you are not actually are. Now, if you see that, as she noted, she said, and that's a key thing, when you see people beginning to lose sleep because of you, it means you are making an impact. Stick to the game. Stick to the game. But as you stick to the game, can you keep on learning? Because somebody else is not just going to come like these slanderous fellows. They will actually come in trying to do something better than you've done. So identify them, see what they are doing better, and ahead of time, learn and come and implement at your enterprise. If Grace continues with that attitude, and remember what I said about people who succeed, and then you are at a medium size, and then bang, you disappear. You forget the two. Remember, a customer is selfish. They buy something that works for them from wherever they can get. If the competition is the one bringing it, they go. So number two, a competition will always try to go where somebody is making money. And if they find you already beginning to slip and failing to keep improving, they take over your space. If Grace does what she's doing today, this is the kind of a young lady to watch and bless as she goes through this game of creating a solution for this country through medical services and through pharmaceutical solutions.
Very powerful. Grace, at your level of operation, actually in sole proprietorship, it becomes extremely hard sometimes to start and run a business without involving family members. And you rightly mentioned that one of your sisters or relatives is actually working with you. And I know there are many business people out there who are in that kind of situation. And it can be a blessing, but it can also be a really, really huge challenge for a small business. How have you managed to, work with family members and still do good business, offer the right service, and basically, do what you do?
Of course, I have very many family members who want to work, but we don't employ someone because he's a relative. First, test them whether they are doing what you want. I have very many people who are not working and they would wish me to employ them. But for example, for her, she started as a cleaner, but she would say a person who does the work passionately. Currently, she's the one managing my medical center. She's the cashier and the receptionist, and at the same time she cleans. But you see what she does, she knows I can fire her. Yeah.
That is a very important one, because sometimes relatives can do things and they're like, I mean, what will they do to me?
Yes.
Charles, that is I keep hearing that a lot of times.
Yes. And I think the viewers need to pick up some of this very interesting submission from a young lady goes into business and is trying to educate her own sister and telling the sister, my sister, do you know where your money is coming from for the school fees? It's coming from this thing. And for people to come here, they need to come and find a clean place. Let's mop it. And the sister put on the right attitude. We've seen so many of our own children or our own relatives coming to our places. You tell them to clean, they say, how do you come and make me a slave?
They want to start as managers.
Correct. So that attitude is wrong. You need to know that the person who is trying to give you resources is as ordinary as can be possible. But for them to have gone where they have gone, there is something they are doing that calls for effort and a commitment to deliver solutions. So getting a sister to be a cleaner and a sister accepting that, it is a clear attitudinal kind of reformation that we all need to have amongst our own relatives. But do you see what Grace has done? After seeing her sister pick up the interest, pick up the desire to be part of this story, she now watches her and says, now that I'm opening a branch, I've trusted you. Go and be head of the medical center. And her sister, she said, is an educationist. But you can see these skills can be acquired. And people need to have the right mindset, and you need to get the people to have the buy-in into the vision. Don't just say, being my sister, it's a must for you to be the head of the medical center. And she has told us there are many relatives who are looking for jobs. But we are not going to give jobs just because you are looking for a job.
Very good. Grace, before, we are nearing the end of this interface this afternoon, and you mentioned, we talked something about the skills that young people need, or the kind of support actually. But I want you to pay a bit of attention from where you sit and what you've seen out of your experience. What kind of skilling do you think, support in that area should be extended to the young people? And do you think it should be continually given, or, we can have one-offs?
With business, we learn every day. And if you don't learn, the business dies off. Every time I go to Enterprise Uganda, there is something new that changes in my business. After the first Enterprise Uganda, we went for that time where they were training us about customer care.
Yes.
Where you give a customer time and so on.
Yeah.
Actually, when you are in business, the best skill that you want is to share with people who are already in business, hear from their challenges, and that's what Enterprise gives us. Like, they train you how the business is moving. They teach you obstacles will always be there, but focus. And you know that if I've gotten 10, or okay, if I've gotten $1 million, don't think it's your money. Make sure put actually 65% back, then you use others sparingly. Don't use all the money or else the business will collapse. Actually, I think for youths out there, continuous associating with business people, learning business skills, because even if you give capital to somebody who doesn't have a skill, that capital is wasted. That's why I really appreciated that the mayor because after that they gave some people some money, but me, I realized I didn't even need that money for the youth after getting the right information. After getting the right information,
you knew you already had the money somewhere.
Even the 50,000 can do something. Emitwale 10 can do something. Whereas if they give you 10 millions, you can eat it up if you don't have the right skills. Here, the right skills that the government should give to the people, teaching them a business mind, that everything can be turned into a business. For example, me, it's not that my first thing that I had as capital was being a pharmacist, not that I had the money. But there are very many pharmacists who even have a lot of money, but they can't think of starting a pharmacy.
I hear you.
Then if there are some, another thing actually I would wish the government to do for the pharmacists in Uganda. Pharmacists want to work, but most of them, they don't have capital. Actually, me, I did my studies in Algeria. In Algeria, after a pharmacist has graduated, the government gives some capital, which you pay back in a period of over 2 years, something like that. So they made it that all pharmacies in the country are owned by the pharmacist. What I admired from there is like people get the right services they need because the pharmacist is already there. But now, here I'm a pharmacist, I'm working for a business person. When you tell him I need 20,000 allowance a day, I'm transporting myself, I need to eat, I need to go back. They want the money, your salary you get is what you use to transport yourself a day. Now even you have the thing that if I go there every day, at the end of the month, it will not be the salary that I worked for. But if the pharmacy is yours, me, I'm a living testimony, I'm always there. Actually, there's a person who asked me, you nurse, you explain very well. You are different from other nurses. Then I told him, no, I explain differently because I'm a pharmacist. It was like true. But seeing there every day there, I thought you were a nurse because they are used that it is the nurses who are always there all the time.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Very important. Charles, what are the key learnings that you're picking in this discussion this afternoon? I'm sure there could be some viewers who have joined us somewhere in the middle. And of course, speaking from Grace's last submission.
Yeah. Some of the things that Grace have bring out are the things that have made businesses not remain in the market long term. You make modest success, you stop planning. You start saying, oh, everybody knows me, I'm the best pharmacist around here. I don't need to go for customer care anymore. I don't need to be taught about how to manage my resources. The moment a sense of self-pride comes in, the window, the opportunity to keep learning gets out. And once you lose that, you are a candidate for stagnation, and over time you must get swept out. So she brings out a very, very key thing, and this is something that the country called Uganda needs to appreciate, that business people are not people who are genetically success story. These are people who are making an effort every day to find a bearing in a terrain that's changing daily, even without COVID.
Yeah.
Even without COVID. The terrain of the business player is changing every day. There's somebody in Brazil who's aiming at supplying eggs in a country occupied by Yuga Chick. And he has understudied what Yuga Chick is doing, how much a tray of Yuga Chick goes at, how Yuga Chick does the logistics. And their intention is to make sure that by December next year, I want to have taken 10% of Yuga Chick's market. So the learning trait, the learning trait, the learning trait. And here's the other additional part of it. She has pointed out a few of them associate with fellow business people. What they are going through is not a curse. It's something that could happen to any other person. Do not say, oh, it is just God who designed it that way. We tend to refuse to learn by using the word God. God is simply saying knowledge is better than silver. Wisdom is better than gold. Those are not my words.
Yeah.
Now, if you ignore that and then you are failing to succeed and you just say it's God's design, you've just blocked your head.
Actually, I remembered one thing you told us that iron sharpens iron.
You see that?
Remember during that session that if you want to be business person, associate with those people.
Correct.
Avoid people who will pull you down, who tell you you cannot.
Yeah.
You think everybody can open a pharmacy. How
Yes.
much money do you have?
And I think it's the reason why we are having these discussions.
Yeah.
The reason why we have viewers, practical operators, business people, is to actually bring you closer to the experiences of, like, real life experiences of business. Because from them you can then pick and learn a lot. Charles, what are your parting shots?
I think what I want to say today is that Ugandans should begin to appreciate that no matter who you are, no parents, poor education, a professional, somebody with a spouse who is well resourced, no matter who you are, you need proper education in building a business mindset. And that business mindset is a story of continuous effort. There is no saying, final, I've made it. No. Grace has opened a medical center. There are already clinics around, but she has already gotten a space. Grace has opened a drug shop. There were drug shops around. There's a space for it. So it is one area where if you get the right mindset, the opportunity is open to all of us.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Grace. Viewers, that's all the time we had for this evening. And I'm sure you've picked quite, very important learnings. We'll be here again next Sunday. And we'll be discussing and again unpacking values and values that you need to really make it in business. COVID-19 or no COVID-19. But stay safe. Have a good evening. I've been your host, Charles Boji. Until next time, bye-bye.